Hello, SLOconf 23, and thanks for tuning in. We have some really cool stuff coming up, so let's get started. SLOs as code are the next step in the journey to improve reliability. It allows teams to co-locate SLO definitions with the product code that the SLOs apply to. I'm Stephan, and I will be talking about the motivation, objectives, and architecture behind SLOs as code and how we adopted this paradigm. Hoang will take us through the code part in SLOs as code, and Devin Cunningham will go over the automation aspect of the system and process we built. Let's illustrate the motivation behind SLOs as code. Given the choice, would you rather be the guy on this desk with a line of people out the door wanting to talk to you, or would you like to be on one of these neat desks here? What we see in the first picture is what happens if ownership for a common resource is centrally owned in a high volume and utilization environment. Centralized ownership effectively becomes a bottleneck. And that is exactly what we predicted would happen if ownership for SLOs would reside with a single team at Procore. One team would be owning the measuring of reliability for thousands of services across the enterprise. On the other hand, co-locating SLO ownership with a team that owns the product or service that the SLO applies to is a win-win. The team wins by improving their visibility into their product's reliability and with that growing their overall product ownership. The customer or user wins by experiencing better reliability, and the team also wins by keeping product and reliability in sync through automated SLO updates via CI. The objective behind SLOs as code extends the motivation behind SLOs to improve the customer experience. SLOs measure product reliability as the primary indicator for user happiness, and reliability is one of the features a product team owns. Decentralized SLO ownership and SLOs as code are streamlined by a simple architecture. A common SLO object model and standardized notation facilitates centralized resource management. A repeatable process implemented via CI provides a single, reproducible, and automatable source of truth for creating and updating SLOs. And a common SLO management platform aggregates and continuously monitors the data streams that inform the SLIs. The process workflow starts with infrastructure as code modules, the SLO object YAML files, and is automatically processed by the CI system into our SLO management platform. And now I'll pass the baton to Justin, who will talk about the code part in SLOs as code.
Hey, thanks, Stephan. Alrighty, my name is Justin, and I've been an SRE here at Procore for the last 2 years. And today I'll be talking to you about these 3 items. First, talking about SLO as code and why we went with this approach. Second, moving to Nobl9 Resources and just giving a brief under the hood of what they are. And we'll be rounding out this section with SLO as YAML and the benefits we have here at Procore using them. So here is a representation of the behind the scenes after PR is submitted. It hits source control. CI picks up those changes and then updates Nobl9. Now let's talk about some of the benefits of this as code process. Well, for one, it's repeatable and consistent. It's a well-tread process here that everybody here at Procore should know. And if not, there's documentation on how to do it. And that means it can be done the same way every time. And 2, our source control acts as a drawer of records, which documents the why of an SLO update. So if something didn't work, or if they're accounting for an incident, or maybe the service owner just has a higher confidence in their service, all those change notes are included with the PR. And 3, we go with a process over tool approach, meaning teams learn one workflow on how to prepare and submit their SLOs. On the flip side, we as team observability, the admins of this source control repository, have one process on how we review and store these SLOs, meaning that if we need to make any sort of changes to our downstreams or vendors down the way, that process remains the same. So with that said, Let's take a look at these Nobl9 resources. Well, at their heart, they are just plain objects, and their biggest complexity is that the project resource needs to be the parent resource type, meaning it just needs to be created first before the dependencies can be defined. But as objects, they have properties like names and descriptions, and you can even append custom labels to them. For instance, we at Procore, we set team as a mandatory label in order to distinguish ownership between different resources. And that's it. It's a brief walkthrough of Nobl9. So let's move on to choosing YAML. Well, we went with the approach that was simple. And YAML is accessible. It's very simple. As an IC, we find that YAML is more ubiquitous and it's grokkable than other languages. We took a look at Terraform as well, but although very user-friendly, it's less well known outside of the SRE role. And that's why we went back to using YAML. But with that said, I will hand that off now to Devin, who will talk to you about the CI automation process.
Thanks, Justin. As he mentioned, my name is Devin, and I'm a software engineer here at Procore. When it comes to creating and maintaining SLOs as code, we wanted the process to be as seamless as possible for our teams. So we created a CI job that automates that process for us. The job utilizes the Nobl9 SLOconf image, which really simplified our whole CI job. We limit the CI overhead by only applying changes to config files that have been modified or newly added, reducing the workload and increasing efficiency. And here's how that process works. First, an engineer creates or modifies a Nobl9 config file and pushes the changes to their Git repo. When this happens, our CI job performs a dry run of the apply, which checks for any errors in the config files. If there are any errors, the PR will be blocked until the issues have been resolved. To ensure that every pull request is error-free, we perform a dry run process on every commit. When the changes are merged into the main branch, the CI job runs again, but this time without the dry run flag, applying the changes in Nobl9. Overall, our automated deployment process is pretty straightforward and user-friendly. And with that, I'll pass it back to Stephan to talk about the common platform.
Thank you, Devin and Justin. That is so cool to look underneath the hood. So for SLOs as code to work, we also needed a common platform. The common platform consolidates the different observability and telemetry streams that inform our SLIs from our monitoring solutions. It allows us to use a single standardized format for all infrastructure as code objects, and it provides the tooling that is necessary for end-to-end automation. So let's wrap this up and talk about the rollout of SLOs as code at Procore. We wrote SLOs as code out as a self-service model. Since then, we have found that the barrier for teams to adopt SLOs as code was a combination of three factors: introducing a new platform, a new data format, and an automated process that connects the first two. To lower that barrier, we provide instructional materials from written instruction, code snippets, templates, to screencast tutorials. We even advertise SLOs as code to the world here at SLOconf. However, we have also found that the technical aspects covered in this talk can take a second seat to the question, how do I design and improve on meaningful SLOs? We recognize this challenge and offer internal and external resources for guidance, along with an open-door consulting practice. We are excited to work with teams and discuss how their product impacts the user experience, how to use these insights to model SLOs using observability data, and update teams' SLOs as part of regular operational reviews. And that's all, folks. If you enjoyed this talk, it is also published as an article on Procore's engineering blog at engineering.procore.com. To see what else Procore is doing with SLOs, see these other talks: Jim DeVille's Good and Slow, Stephen Weber, Arguments in Favor, and my other talk, Black Box SLIs. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you around.